How has the new Godzilla movie helped Millie Bobby Brown dealing with the pandemic? An epic film has hit the screen. For only the second time, we'll get to see Godzilla and King Kong battle. Only this time, the technology is way better. How much did CGI contribute to creating the world of the film? Why did Alexander Skarsgård learn sign language? What about the secret escapes Millie Bobby Brown and Julian Dennison took while shooting on the Gold Coast?
Changing his direction? No, we're headed straight for him.
We're honestly so excited that Millie Bobby Brown is back to the big screen. And at only 17, the always busy actress is no stranger to the monster content world, from her role on Stranger Things and, of course, when she did the 2019 Godzilla film. Though this time, she's really coming into her own and we get to see her in a more mature role. Working on this film amid the pandemic has actually been a really important experience for the actress. Through it, she's been able to live in a whole other world. According to Brown, the experience of working on this type of film in particular is really refreshing because she gets to be immersed in a world of fantasy and these otherworldly creations. Shooting the film helped her to relieve some of the stress that she'd been feeling, and she was actually able to forget some of the issues she was having in her own life. While the film itself is of course very dramatic, our world is in such a chaotic state right now that Brown believes people will enjoy watching it because it can give us a break from our world and allow us to totally invest in the adventures of Godzilla and King Kong for a couple of hours. This movie is of course centered on two pretty impressive and monstrous characters. So naturally, the cast had to interact with them, but who were the actors really acting opposite? Well, it's not so much who, but what. Most of the time when the actors interacted with Godzilla, they were communicating with the tennis ball. If the tennis ball was missing in action, sometimes it was actually just the first assistant director who was holding up a rag doll and making some hand gestures. While not having a scene partner to act with may seem tricky, Millie Bobby Brown says it's actually a really cool mystical experience. And because she has to visualize so much on her own, there's a kind of surreal feel to the whole process. Shooting is one thing, but seeing the final product can come as quite a surprise for the actors since the energy in the movie is so completely different to the bare and simple settings they often found themselves performing such intense scenes in. What we see in the final cut is terrifying monsters wreaking havoc and destroying cities, but for Brown, her co-star Godzilla doesn't feel so intimidating. She's been able to see the character in a different light and described him as a beautiful creature. She has even confirmed that she is definitely Team Godzilla.
Team Godzilla all the way. And then I'm gonna wink at camera.
One of the most interesting aspects of Godzilla vs. Kong is the significant inclusion of sign language. Child actor Kaylee Hoddle is deaf in real life, and so is her character in the movie. The role she plays is actually quite special because she's the only human who's able to communicate with Kong. Hoddle communicated that she was really proud to be doing the film because of the importance of having the deaf community represented on screens. Alexander Skarsgård interacts with her throughout the film, and in order to be able to communicate and develop a stronger bond with her, Skarsgård learned sign language. He was super impressed watching Hoddle work as her precision and facial expressions communicated so much. Since Hoddle is part of the deaf community in real life, she was able to bring a unique authenticity because she understands not only the language, but the culture. The performance is so special, there's some speculation that it might actually be the one that really steals the film.
She's the only one he'll communicate with.
When it came to the sets, well, what the cast and crew saw was pretty different from what we see on screen. See how empty this studio looks? There are only a few practical bits around the set that act as markers in specific locations. Most of the movie was actually filmed on large practical sets that had huge green screens behind them to allow the CGI to take over and really create the environments and, of course, monster characters to fill the picture. The city where the third act of the movie takes place was actually completely designed by computers to match the real city as closely as possible, with a few futuristic additions to upgrade the look a bit. Not only did they recreate cities, they also adjusted and manipulated sizes of real locations throughout Hong Kong so the scale looked more realistic for Kong to move throughout the large buildings, almost as if they were giant trees. We can't talk about this film without acknowledging the super impressive water sequence. This was definitely a major part of that $200 million budget. Check out these underwater cameras and the major contraptions that were needed to shoot these scenes. Audiences have never really seen Godzilla or Kong in the water much before, so seeing the way they interact with and function in water brings a whole new layer to these well-known characters. How about these explosion scenes? We do see some practical props with these rocks, but overall, it's far more calm without the added CGI. But we would be lying if we said we weren't totally blown away and impressed by these performers all on their own. Even without the effects, there is no doubt this is an action-packed film with very talented performers bringing the world to life.
2, 1, go!
Rounding out the stellar young cast is Julian Dennison. There is no shortage of talent from any of the age groups for sure.
Just men being men, you know?
For Dennison, the project was actually really special because it was the first time that he really got to work with another teenage actor, since he was often the only young actor on set in most of the other productions he did. He and Millie Bobby Brown automatically had a special bond because they both experienced the realities of being child actors. They definitely had their fair share of fun on set. Yeah, they're definitely having a good time. A lot of this laughter came from the fact that the two often got to improvise together when shooting. This added the naturalism and authentic relationship we see between their two characters. It may have taken a few more takes. There are even rumors that with all the outtakes, there's close to enough footage to make a whole other film with just a gag reel. The fun wasn't only reserved for the set though. The duo took advantage of shooting on the Gold Coast to hit up roller coasters on their days off. They even have their own extensive secret handshake.
Sunrise, sunset, swimming fish.
Remember how we mentioned the movie cost $200 million to make? Well, it was quite a major project for director Adam Wingard, who had never directed a film that cost more than $40 million. They did shoot in Australia, Hong Kong, and Hawaii, so the hefty price tag isn't too surprising. Wingard was totally ready for the challenge though, and he didn't approach the task lightly. He actually watched pretty much every single Godzilla and King Kong film that existed in preparation of directing this one. He's expressed how necessary it was to invest in research this way when working on such a major franchise. After watching all the films, it was the 1995 Godzilla vs. Destroya that really hit him and inspired the way he wanted to approach this one. All this background work helped Wingard do justice to the movies, which can sometimes stray into kind of weird territory. When done the right way, the films can show the monsters aren't just monsters, but characters we can empathize and connect with. Wingard connected with the Kong characters so much, he actually edited some parts of the script that he thought were too harsh for Kong, because he felt too bad directing anything harmful towards this so-called monster.
Nathan, are you okay? Come on.
Well, let's just say, this film looks incredible, especially considering how the Godzilla and King Kong movies used to look. It's neat to know that the cast and crew really had a great time on set together creating such an epic film. And shows just how good all their imagination skills are. How do you think this film will affect the Monsterverse?